but a little review on soil so that we can actually talk about what actions you can take to improve your soil and particularly your health of your soil. Well, every atom in your body was once inside of a rock. And I don't know if you know this, but rocks dissolve in water. These are all different rocks and they have different minerals. And what are minerals? Minerals are just collections of elements. That's what makes up minerals, and different collections of those crystallized form of minerals, which are made of these different elements. That's what rock is. That's what we're all made out of. Every atom in your body is what's once inside of a rock, and rocks dissolve in water. You see that? It just dissolved. I don't know if you're noticing that. Now, it doesn't dissolve very fast because we don't live very long. Now, some minerals dissolve fast, like salts, and some minerals dissolve slow, but they all dissolve, right? And when they dissolve out, they become nutrients. I mean, that's what nutrients are. They are minerals that have dissolved in water, that have been released in an aqueous phase, and then they get taken up by the roots of a plant, incorporated into those tissues, and then you either ate them or your mom ate them, and then that biodegraded in you and became part of the tissues in your body. Every atom in your body has been through the soil system billions of times already. The fact that you are not soil at this moment is a temporary condition. This is really what's happening on the planet. Rocks dissolve in water, which release nutrients that plants use to build their tissues, and then we eat the plants, or we eat animals that eat the plants to build our tissues, and they all die and they go back to the soil. And that's what organic matter is, right? I mean, they're plants and animals that die. Everything that's alive will eventually die, right? I got a couple of little roses here, right? Dried roses. Look at those things. Aren't they beautiful? And what these are, this is organic matter, right? Here's a leaf. You know, what is this leaf made out of? It's made out of carbon. There's a little mineral nutrients in here, but mostly this is made of carbon. And where did the carbon come from a plant? The atmosphere, right? You know that CO2, this is carbon. There's carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and plants take it in. They don't breathe it, they eat it. Plants eat the atmosphere, okay? They're eating the atmosphere, and they take the carbon dioxide apart, take it apart, and then they put it together into tissues like rose petals to take apart CO2 gas and put it together into tissues of wood and leaves and petals, right? That is a chemical reaction. And it's a type of chemical reaction called an endothermic chemical reaction, which means it requires energy input to do it. To take something apart and together, put it together, requires energy input. And where does the energy input come from for plants? The sun. Plants need sunlight energy to do that. And plants have figured out a way to capture that energy and take it and use it to take apart the atmosphere and put it together into these tissues. And that's like what's so amazing about that is in this leaf right now is the energy of the sun at the time of photosynthesis. The carbon to carbon bonds that are making this leaf actually have the energy of the sunlight that's shown on this plant, and the plant captured that energy in the carbon to carbon bonds. And you know it's there, that energy is there. It's there because if we get this hot enough, it'll burst into flames, right? So here's a piece of wood. It's called a match. This was once a tree, right? Carbon has been captured from the atmosphere using the energy of the sun. And if I get this to 451 degrees through friction, it bursts into flames. And now look at, it's burning. What is burning? That's an oxidation chemical reaction, and it's releasing the heat energy. It's releasing the energy that was in there. That's the sunlight energy. And you notice that it goes away. Have you ever noticed when you burn a fire, it goes away? Where is it going to? Back to CO2, water vapor, and heat. And the heat is the energy of the sun at the time of photosynthesis that is captured in the carbon to carbon bonds in the organic matter. And plants have figured out a way to capture the energy from the sun to build their tissues. And then they take up mineral. Think about it. What is left in the fireplace after the fire burns out? Ash is the mineral nutrients that dissolved out of the rocks. The carbon went back to CO2. The energy went back as heat left that, and a little bit of water vapor came off because it takes water to make these tissues. And what's left over is the ash. And so think how little ash is actually in the wood compared to the volume of the wood. You can burn wood all night in a fireplace. Just keep putting it in. And 10 hours later, there's a little pile of ash there. And those are the mineral nutrients that are inside. And that's what's in you. And that's what soil is. Soil is rotted rocks and accumulated decomposed organic matter. And that organic matter has energy in it. In a single pinch of soil, there are over 1 billion living organisms in there right now. And in this pinch too, 1 billion living organisms in there, representing tens of thousands of species. And most of them, we don't even know who they are or what they do, but they're there. And they're doing important stuff. You know what they're doing? They're biodegrading the organic matter and releasing the nutrients from it. And they're eating the organic matter. When you add organic matter, you're adding carbon and energy to the soil. And the billions in a single pinch, they need to eat organic matter. And the more organic matter you put in the soil, the more biologically active the soil is. The more biologically active the soil is, the more efficient it is at releasing those nutrients and that energy to do work to build other plants. And the more plants that are grown, the better the soil is at growing plants. And the better the soil is at growing plants, the more plants there are. And the more plants there are, the better it is at growing plants. You see what I'm saying? That's called soil building. And that's what soil health is all about. Soil health is about accumulating organic matter in the soil. And the easiest way to do that is to grow plants. Cover crops are crops that you grow specifically to feed back to the soil. But it's not just organic matter. Cover crops also put roots into the ground and they punch holes down into the ground. Think about it. When a tiny little root goes down, tiny little root here, goes down into the soil, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger. And as it grows, because it's accumulating carbon and energy, as it gets bigger, it makes a bigger hole in the soil. The bugs, the billions in a single pinch that are in my finger right now, the little bacteria and the fungi, what they do is they ooze out enzymes that they're catalysts that make the oxidation reaction that we call burning happen at a lower temperature. So it's like rotting when it takes water and chemicals to do that. It burns at a lower temperature. In fact, it burns at a temperature of about, 97 degrees. Like in you right now, you eat food to get the carbon, the energy, and the mineral nutrients. And it doesn't have to be 451 degrees for that oxidation to happen, because you have the same bugs that are in the soil are in your gut right now. And you're adding organic matter. They're oozing out enzymes. They're lowering the activation energy necessary for the oxidation reaction called burning to happen. And how do you get a fire to burn hotter? Oxygen in. And what comes off of a fire after it burns? CO2, water vapor, and heat. It's like a fire inside of you. And that's what's happening in the soil. The same thing. The billions in a single pinch are eating the organic matter. They're using oxygen to do it. They're breaking those chemical bonds. They're getting the mineral nutrients, and they're getting the energy from the sun. And then they move their little arms or their little legs or their little antennas. And every time they do that, a little bit of heat is given off that originally came from the sun. That's what soil is. Soil is a battery that stores energy from the sun for the billions of organisms to do their work to build plants.